Hi, my name is Bill Reichert, and I'm a partner here at Pegasus Tech Ventures. And today we're going to talk about the art of raising capital, how to win the hearts and minds of investors. Now, if you want to win the hearts and minds of investors, you got to start with Human Anatomy 101. So what do I mean by this? Well, what we know is that an effective communicator connects with three body parts. The head, of course, you've got to say something that is logical, that we can understand, that makes sense in terms of our understanding of the physics of the world and the business of the world. So we spend most of our time coaching entrepreneurs on this part. It's not good enough to have a sound, logical argument with evidence and data. The head is not all you need to connect with. You also need to connect with the heart. So believe it or not, most investors don't invest with their brains, they invest with their hearts. Investors fall in love with companies, and then they rationalize their investment by doing the diligence and looking at the numbers and doing the market research. You've got to get them to fall in love. You've got to get their heart beating faster. You've got to get their pulse racing. So you want to get investors to fall in love with you. That's the second body part, but there's a third body part. The third body part is the gut. So you got to pass the gut check. That human beings have an instinctive, immediate reaction to every person they meet and every idea they hear. We immediately categorize people and ideas into things we trust and believe or don't trust and don't believe. So now, which one do you think is the most important? The most important is the heart. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But you also got to get them to fall in love. And so that's why we're going to talk about the top 10 rules for winning the hearts and minds of investors. So rule number one is you've got to stand out. So this goes back to getting them to fall in love. It's not good enough to have a good enough presentation, to have a good enough idea, to have good enough financials. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs were raised to believe that, you shouldn't brag, you shouldn't, be immodest. But I will tell you, if you want to get venture capital, you've got to stand out. High confidence is way more exciting than false modesty. So now the question is, how do you stand out? How do you get to wow? The way you get to wow is you've got to make sure first you are clear about what it is your business is doing. Amazingly, a lot of entrepreneurs are not very good at communicating clearly even what they're doing. So make sure right at the front end you are clear about what your business is. But that's not good enough. You also have to be compelling. You've got to make sure that what you are offering is 10 times better than anyone else. It's 1/10 the cost. It lasts 5 times longer. You've got to have a compelling value proposition. That's what gets investors to fall in love and want to invest. You've got to have a compelling value proposition. But then third, you've got to be credible. As I said before, entrepreneurs have a tendency to be very optimistic and may tend to exaggerate. If you exaggerate, then maybe you're going to destroy your credibility. Rule number 2 is you got to get your fundamentals right. It's really important that you get things done in the right way. If we come across a company that's just kind of a mess in terms of the way it was set up, we're going to walk away. One is you got to make sure you and your co-founders set up your stock allocations and restrictions in just the right way. So the way you distribute stock and the protections you put on your founder's stock are really important. Second, we want to make sure that you're paying attention to your intellectual property. Your intellectual property is going to be key to maintaining your competitive advantage, and we want to know that you're on top of the proper procedures to protect your proprietary know-how and your patentable intellectual property. Third, we want to make sure that you've set up your company legally, correctly in compliance with local, state, federal, and other laws. So we want to make sure that you've done the right job of staying in compliance with all the laws that you have to stay in compliance with. And then last, when you bring people on, generally entrepreneurs, when you're in startup mode, you bring in contractors and advisors and part-time help. You've got to make sure that you paper that all correctly. You have the correct contracts and relationships with your contractors. The third rule is you got to make sure you get your numbers right. These are the numbers that frequently entrepreneurs get wrong, that if you get wrong is going to hurt you when you're pitching to investors. First, you got to make sure that you size your market the right way. Don't go out there and Google, the auto parts industry, which is a $56 billion annual business, and say, because you've got some software for distributors, that you're going after a $56 billion industry. You're not. Make sure that you segment the market to carefully identify who your target customers are and size that market opportunity according to what you're really going to deliver. You also have to make sure that you get your projected revenues right. Generally, entrepreneurs are overly optimistic about how fast and how big they can build a company. Do the research on other successful companies and talk to people who know what it takes to scale a company. The other thing that really traps entrepreneurs is misunderstanding their sales cycle. So we're investing in you as a business person, creating a business that's going to have economics associated with it. And that means you really have to understand your sales cycle and your unit economics. So show us that you have a deep understanding of what it takes to find and convert and get payment from customers. And we understand the cost, and you understand the cost to acquire those customers and the value of those customers over time. Those are your unit economics. We're going to drill you on that. You better know what those numbers are. And then last, another number that's really important for you to understand is a fair valuation for your company. Frequently, entrepreneurs are way off on this. Frequently too high, often too low. And make sure that your valuation expectations are in the right range, that you won't alienate investors when you talk about where you think your company should be valued. It's really important to build a high-performing team. So we invest in teams. We're looking for a team that knows how to scale a company to being a successful big company. So what's the secret to building a high-performing team? Well, there are a few different secrets, but some key secrets are, first of all, make sure that you build a team of leaders. Frequently entrepreneurs think they're the leaders and they should go hire followers. Well, that's not right, because if every decision has to be made by you, you're never going to scale your company. That means you need to be able to hire people who have leadership capabilities. So hire a team of leaders, give them leadership responsibility, and make sure they take responsibility for leading in their particular domain. The other thing you want to see in your team is alignment across the team. You may have just great talent, they may be superstars, but if people aren't aligned in terms of the mission of your company, the vision of your company, the values of your company, and the norms with which you operate, then you're going to wind up with inefficiency and chaos inside the organization, people doing all sorts of different things. And then last, it's really important when you bring on this team of leaders and you get them all aligned behind you, that you listen to be at the edge. And so if you don't listen to the people who are at the edge, who are with the customers, who are out in the field, you're not going to know what's going on out there. Just give them the opportunity to share their intelligence with you on what's the best decision to be made. And now the challenge for entrepreneurs is, if you get a lot of high achieving individuals who like to be heard and you're in meetings trying to make decisions, you're going to get disagreement. You're going to get disagreement. That's okay. You want to listen to them and bring them up on top of the table. Then you discuss, then you come to a decision, and then what you have to make sure is that everybody commits to that decision. Once the team has come to a decision, you've got to commit. So if somebody sabotages a decision because they said they disagreed with it, then you got to get them off the bus. People Once they come onto the team, once you make a commitment, you've got to stick with that commitment. The fifth rule, this is a little bit different. The fifth rule is you got to learn how to steal. Now, my partners cringe when I tell this to entrepreneurs. Bill, do you really want to tell them to steal? No. What I mean by this is it is important for you to be scanning the world looking for the best ideas that are going to be relevant for your business. Apple is considered one of the most innovative companies in the world. But what did Apple invent? Apple did not invent the microcomputer. Apple did not invent the mouse. Apple didn't invent the GUI interface. Apple did not invent the MP3 player. Apple did not invent the smartphone. Apple did not invent the tablet. Apple did not invent the smartwatch. What did Apple invent? Apple has not invented products, they've borrowed from other technologies, integrated technologies together into new products that are innovative products that have taken over the world. Scan the world for the best ideas, for the best technologies, for the best approaches, for the best business models, and borrow them and apply them in your own unique particular way. Don't steal cash, don't steal intellectual property, but feel free to find other ideas that are going to be relevant to you and integrate them into your innovative solution. Rule number 6 is show us you can sell. So I can't believe how little attention is paid in entrepreneur education. What we really want to see is that you know how to sell. We want to see that you've been out there in the field. You're not hiding out in your lab. You're not fiddling at your computer or at your bench with your product. You're out in the field with customers. You're talking to customers. You're playing around with ideas. You're looking for solutions that are going to create a lot of value for those customers. We want to see that you're out there selling, but we want to see that you can take charge of that sales process the same way that we hope you're taking charge of sales out in the field to your target customers. Rule number 7, again, this is kind of a different rule. I'm telling you, I want you to be intolerant. Now that sounds a little odd, right? But what I mean by that is we want you to have a very high sense of urgency about everything that you are doing. Believe it or not, VCs don't invest in nice entrepreneurs. So what we want to see is that you have intense urgency about everything you are doing. You are not going to tolerate slips and mistakes and delays. You are going to drive to make sure no matter what, this thing happens. Do not let investors off the hook during the fundraising process. Show that you have an intense sense of urgency. Rule number 8 is you got to build a network. You can't do it alone. You've got to extend outside your company. Go find advisors who are really smart about your technology, about your target customers, about the competitive environment, about scaling your business. Don't worry too much about the structure. Just make sure that you plug in to smart people who can help you across a lot of different domains. And then get out there and build a larger network of relationships of people who know what you're up to, who can help you possibly recruit other people, find investors, find customers, find partners. Your network is one of the most valuable assets you have. Rule number 9 then is as you build your network, as you connect with investors, turn us into evangelists. The trick is to make sure that you stand out by having something that's going to make us say, wow. That means we understand clearly what you're doing, we understand your compelling value proposition, and we have evidence that you are credible. If that is true, and that is easy enough for us to remember and repeat, we're going to go tell that to other people. We're going to talk about, hey, that company that we met that is doing this amazing thing with this extraordinary technology, we're going to take it back to our partners and say, you got to meet with this team of entrepreneurs. Turn us into evangelists, leverage us to go get the word out. Rule number 10 is it's important to focus on creating value, not on making money. Now, this may sound contrary because, probably everybody's told you those VCs, they want to make a bunch of money. That's the whole business of venture capital. But When we see a team come into our office that is focused on making money, we're not interested in that team, because there are lots of ways to make money. Entrepreneurship is one of the hardest ways to make money. We want entrepreneurs who are dedicated to solving a problem or creating an opportunity that's going to create extraordinary value. When the going gets tough, those entrepreneurs figure out a way to get through it, to persist, to get around obstacles, to go over obstacles. That's what we invest in. Those are the top 10 rules to the art of raising capital, how to win the hearts and minds of investors. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to the opportunity to tell you more in future Pegasus videos. Thank you very much.